And welcome back to the Culture Crusade. We're live. It's good to be back. How are you, Mike? How you been?
We're crusading culturally. Yeah. Let's go. You know, to that end, yes. I just saw that that Elon Musk doesn't even know if Ashley St. Clair's kid is his, and he's like, I still gave her $2.5 million and $500,000 a month, and I'm like, hey, you want to start a media company? I mean, come on, you don't even know, and you've already dumped $3 million on this chick.
Damn. I know. I mean, that's something that you might want to confirm.
That was the context, because someone was saying that she was making him take a paternity test, and he's like, I don't know if it's mine. I'll take one. I still gave her money. I'm like, dang, dude, come on now.
Oh, it's a strange world we're living in, and funnily enough, like there is many crusading going on in the culture at the moment, and we're going to talk about quite a bit. One is going to be an interesting topic of discussion. It's the primary title of the stream, but I think I'll wait until some more people come in, because I have a couple of thoughts to share that I don't really want to have to repeat myself when more people are hanging out with us. So I think one of the fun things to kind of just kick off in general discussion is, hey, what do you think of Working Man?
I liked Working Man a lot. I liked the last 2/3 of it more. I thought, because it comes from a novel, and I said this earlier on my stream, because there's a lot of information I had to get through, and so there was a lot of
you're roboting a bit there.
Am I?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Now you're roboting. I'm not sure if it's my internet or if it's on your end.
I don't know. I usually get that little thing in the corner if I'm.
Okay, well, chat. Let me know if yeah, chat, because if the chat sees it, it's on your end. So chat, let us know if Mike is roboting or if I'm just crazy. Okay. Which is, or it could be both. They're saying live is good. All right, so it's on my end. Never mind. It's just
Australia. What are you gonna do? Yeah, so I what I call it is like staccato exposition, where there's just stuff people are saying for the clear exposition of it's not like long-winded stuff, but it's like, yeah, you know, I was in that thing with the thing and the stuff, and it's like just, it's not quite natural flow conversation, but it's like they had to get a lot of this stuff set in place to know what you were doing in the beginning, and then man, the last 2/3 is so much fun. It's it's like the Terminator meets.
I thought it was fun.
Yeah,
I think that's a great way. Like, it's a fun movie. Now, it's based on a book written by Chuck Dixon, who we had on the Culture Crusade 2 weeks ago, which is brilliant. Chuck's a great guy, and I'm just thrilled for him. I think this is brilliant, him getting one of his books adapted into a feature film. And
first time, dude's 60-something years old or older. I don't even know, 100, 120. And this is his first time getting something made into. I mean, man. I mean, how long like Bane, but whatever. You know.
He's got an impressive pedigree. Is that the term, or you know, body of work? And so I'm just thrilled for him. I think that is real brilliant. And I tell you what, it kind of came out at the perfect time as well, both during the box office and culturally, because this is the type of movie that if it was released in like the 90s, I don't think it would really get much attention. I would say it's actually a pretty generic action,
because there'd be a lot of competition in that space. Exactly. But here the competition was Snow White.
Snow White, right? And on top of that, we have been starved of traditional action flicks for ages now because of toxic masculinity. That Working Man is water in a drought. And I'm
surprised that it came, because a lot of the action stuff is just coming out direct to streaming.
Yeah.
Right. And this one actually made it to the screen. So
yeah, and you can look.
And then Chuck has the wherewithal to realize that next week it's going to get crushed by Minecraft. But you know, let's take our wins where we can get.
As well as there. And look, I think it's already doing well for its budget. And in terms of the movie, like if you just like good action, you'll enjoy it. I don't think it's like something that's going to necessarily blow you away, but because we get so little of it, I think is really enjoyable. And there are moments that I actually really liked in the film. I loved that there was traditional kind of chivalry in the sense that the main character gets offended when a woman's honor is insulted, and like he hits the guy like that's for hitting the woman, and then he's like, "That was my wife," and bang, that's for hitting your wife. Love that. And there's a moment where one of the bad guys calls the kidnapped girl a whore, and he's like, "Bang, no, you call it that." It's like, I've missed traditional, masculinity like that, and this is full of those just good moments. And then
do you agree with my critique about the staccato exposition?
I need to go back and kind of rewatch it to kind of get a refresher. But I trust you on that one. I was mainly trying to pay attention to the plot and just the fun action of it all. And the plot gets a little like muddy in terms of but mostly is coherent, whereas all right, he needs to find this girl and is using kind of logical steps to get there, and the film keeps you hooked enough and interested, and then is an ex kind of special ops guy, a badass, and then he kicks ass. There's a moment in the
not spoilers for anybody, but the extra gang they threw in towards the end, and it was just, you know what I'm talking about?
Sorry, what one?
The extra gang they threw in at the end.
Yeah, they got like
we're walking out of the theater. Yeah, and I'm talking to my son, and I'm like, it would have just been more funny if the Mexican gang from the beginning got in there. It's just like everybody all at the same time.
Yeah, and there were, like I said, there's a couple of like standard action-y tropes which you recognize if you're familiar with the genre, but that's not actually a bad thing. This is kind of it's a film that knows its target audience and gives them what they want. Now the kidnapped girl, I want to go light on spoilers, but it's hard to avoid like some, but this is like in the trailers. Yes, a girl gets kidnapped and stuff, right? Interesting. I was like paying attention to her a decent amount to see, all right, how are they going to execute this character? Because they actually walked, I think, a decent fine line in the film well enough where she is a damsel in distress. She needs to be saved, and she is saved at the end. But she is also very resistant.
She's got some bite.
She's got a lot of bite.
Yeah. And they set that up right when they, and then again, that's like staccato exposition. My grandfather was a Green Beret. He taught me how to do this. And it's like, yeah, that's going to come up later.
Yes. and I want to avoid spoilers because I do encourage people to go check it out. It's a fun action flick because there's a moment where that's too spoilery. I can't really say. But at the end of the day, she still needs to be saved. And so as a result, they don't kind of go over the board girl boss. They actually kind of, all right, they manage to pull off that she is a strong, fighter in and of herself, but not complete girl boss, don't need no man kind of thing.
She's not going to beat a dude.
Yeah.
We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. So a couple of other kind of topics to discuss before we dive into some of the main one. Have you heard about the possible casting for Aslan in the new or upcoming or in development
Can we just
Chronicles of
cut
Narnia?
Hollywood off of California and let it float into the sea, please?
Kind of at that point. Do you want to guess who you
I
think?
know who it is. I just don't.
You've seen this. Yep, I'll share this with everyone. So they're thinking of casting Meryl Streep for Aslan. I'm like, hang on. Something doesn't compute, Mike. I'm having trouble connecting some dots here.
Aslan is trans now. That's what they're going. That's right. That's what they have to. They like. Okay, Aslan is your metaphor for God in Narnia. Let's make him trans.
Well, they want to. I don't know if they're going to go that far, but they want to cast a woman in the role.
Aslan is a man.
He is a man.
Look at his mane.
Yes, that's a male
if you're
lion.
Casting a woman role in the role.
It's going to be a lioness now.
It cannot be a lioness.
Like Hollywood.
As trans land. Yeah, there's so many ways you could go with this.
Hollywood, like, they have no respect for
obviously
the source material, but also just tradition.
Wait a second, who's running the freaking ship over at the who owns the IP?
Isn't this Netflix?
I mean, the Lewis estate.
Oh, okay.
Who's running the ship at the Lewis estate that they would green light this?
Well, it depends how they've signed off of the rights to whoever's developing it. And I think it's Netflix. Because as soon as you sign over those licenses, if it's written in the contract that you don't have control over it, you don't get it. Like, they don't have any say. But if they there's a lot of IP holders.
Did somebody die recently? Because I remember back when they were doing, like, a couple decades ago. What was it? Chris or somebody, whoever the son or whoever was in charge then, they were very like uptight about allowing stuff. You remember that correctly, right? I remember that correctly. I'm not imagining anything.
I can't. Yeah. See, I can't remember too much about how the IP holders kind of controlled it. I wonder
if somebody died and it got passed to like the grandchildren, and the grandchildren have blue hair and nose rings.
Kind of like what happened with the Tolkien estate. Is that what you're thinking of? That, yeah. This is being directed by Greta Gerwig. Do you remember who Greta Gerwig is, Mike?
It does ring a bell.
Think Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
I never think of Indiana Jones.
that's a smart way to live right there. She's the one who was the Indiana Jones replacement, I believe.
She's the girl actress?
Yeah. And I think she's heading the ship for this Narnia adaptation.
Oh, Laughing Cavalier says she also wrote some of the script for Snow White.
Whoa, that's a ringing endorsement.
Just banging on all cylinders.
Oh boy. Really? Is that Greta? Okay, so no, maybe she's not. Maybe I'm getting those mixed up. Maybe she's not the Indiana Jones. She's the Barbie.
She's the Barbie director?
Okay. See, I thought chat would correct me if I was wrong.
That's great, because you know what that means. They're going to go so far to the left that they come back around and try to convert everyone to Christianity.
The Barbie director. That's what a feminist spin on Narnia. And it looks like
they're gonna girl boss the Ice Queen so much that it convicts everybody to become born again Christians.
No, here's the chat. It was Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who I was thinking of. Why was I connecting her to Narnia? I have no idea. Maybe I'm just getting completely mixed up with insufferable feminists, or the people in Hollywood. So, I think, the Chronicles of Narnia remake. Yeah, this is going to be turning out great, Mike. Aren't you excited when you see stuff like that?
Meryl Streep is a wonderful actress.
Yeah. She loved Harvey Weinstein.
The Devil Wears Prada.
Have you seen her comments about Harvey Weinstein? She literally called him God.
No.
Oh. So, I look, don't have too much respect, I have to say. And Aslan is a character that literally is a metaphor for God, and so symbol of authority. Male kind of strength is needed in that role, especially
because they're trying to reverse roles. They'll probably make the Ice Queen into Donald Trump.
Possible. Gosh, who knows at this point?
The Cheeto King.
And Liam Neeson did such a good job as the voice of Aslan. His voice just perfect for it. And I actually quite like the original Narnia films. Well, when I say they're not original, I guess the most recent. But I enjoyed them. Did you ever see like the BBC Narnia live action?
Way back?
Way back.
No, I did not watch those.
As a kid, had the first one on VHS, and so we kind of grew up with Narnia as a fun fantasy story. Yes, Buddy Rabbit, you are correct. Thank you for the super chat, $2. More specifically, his Jesus. Aslan represents Jesus Christ. This is absolutely right. Herman P. Hunters, the Law Forge, for $5 says, Mike needs a faster computer. Trust me on this one.
Thanks, Jeff.
Madney85 for $20 says, my grandma claims our ancestors were bushwhacked by Mormons in Missouri during 1838, Shad. I demand reparations. I'll be emailing you my Venmo. Seriously, though, enjoy your content. Keep it up. We'll keep it up. Thank you, sir. I want to know the context now. If there was a conflict between your ancestors and the Mormons, were they on the Mormon hit squads that were, carrying out the Mormon extermination order? Was it that type of thing, or other things? But there has been conflicts between Mormons and people in the past.
You got this wrong, Shad. These are more moms.
Oh, okay.
They got the more mom massacre was really something. All those mothers out there whacking people with brooms and stuff.
News to me, Mike. Alexander crosses $5 says, going to say, just when you thought Hollywood couldn't slip any lower, then I remember they've been pulling up dirt from under the barrel for ages. It's just like par for the course. I mean, and it's a red flag. At the same time, it also shows where their ideological lens lies. Okay, if they have such disdain for the source material, they think like, we are just gonna bastardize and do whatever we want, gender change characters and everything like that for what is clear political ideology. Okay, this is a ma feminism kind of need representation thing when Narnia has great female characters. I don't know what you're thinking of when this also feels like an insult and slap at Christians as well, on the same motion, because as clearly, Jesus Christ. And so, if this is true, show's dead to me. Deserves no attention, and apart from calling it out, depending on how bad it is when it comes out. That's as far as.
Oh, I'm pretty sure you'll review it.
Maybe. No. I review things that I feel have either a need to review, or there's a lot of interest to hear reviews on it. But like Wheel of Time season 3 is basically dead. And if you've seen my reviews on season 1 and 2, it's absolute crap. And season 3, I've heard that it's awful on many reports. Some people try and claim that it's not. It's the best one so far. It's built on the continuity of the first 2 seasons, which is an insult to just quality as well as the source material. And no, it's completely dead to me. And no one cares about it. There's no need to review it. It's already been ripped apart. But Rings of Power season 3, I think there's going to be a lot of interest around that one. A lot of people wanting to see the review. My review on Snow White, for instance, holy crap.
How's that doing now?
It's almost at 400,000 views. So it's done pretty good.
Very nice.
And people have been very interested in checking that out. And so if people are very, I expect Narnia probably will have a lot of interest. People wanting to know if it's good or bad. And so for that reason, there's a good chance I'll review it. I'm going to be reviewing Minecraft this week. That's coming out.
Yeah.
Thoughts on Minecraft? It looks bad. I'm not expecting great things, but maybe I'll be wrong.
It's gonna do gangbusters, dude. All my
I think it'll do well.
My kids are actually they've set up a freaking chat group for people to come and do a Minecraft watch party. That's how excited kids are for this. It's gonna be like Mario Brothers.
Likely. I would say it's likely.
And if it's not as gay as it looks, it'll do as well as Mario Brothers.
You know, you're right. If it is just like an average film that is tolerable, it'll
then kids will want to go see it over and over again. Yeah.
And because that's kind of what I saw Mario as. Mario was okay with some annoyances. But fans of the Mario franchise, I just loved Mario. Nathan, when he was here on Night's Watch, we've got the review on Night's Watch. He loved Mario, and he's a big Nintendo fan. And so if it can do that for the fans, even though I thought the film overall was average, Mario did really well. I think Minecraft is going to do pretty good.
Yeah.
The trailers makes it look horrible. I could be wrong.
I've only seen about trailers before. Have they done a recent trailer? I've only seen the first one.
Yeah, there's a couple of trailers. There's one like that introduces Jack Black as Steve.
Yeah.
And a couple of other things. So, and none of them really sold me on it. A lot of the other characters look like Jason Momoa looks cringe as hell.
Well, okay. I'm just gonna play because I know my kids want to see this so much. Play devil's advocate because first of all, I haven't seen any of the other things, but Jason looking goofy. That's kind of his shtick in real life, so I'm not entirely sure. And he's got so much charisma. I can't see him and Jack Black would probably have a lot of chemistry, so it could all work very well. I don't know, but we'll see.
Exactly. This is the one where I'm reserving my final judgment until I watch it, of course. My impression looks like I think it's going to be cringe. But just like with Dungeons & Dragons, the film, I thought that was going to be a dumpster fire. When I watched it, it's like I actually enjoyed the Dungeons & Dragons film.
Same here.
Okay. And so my preconceptions don't affect my ability to judge if the film is either enjoyable or good or not when I go and watch it. And we will see. We will see when it comes out. All right, so let's get into the primary topic of the live stream today. And there is like this aggressive push to kind of destroy Grummz. Now, you know who Grummz is on Twitter?
I've seen some of his stuff, but I don't really know him.
Okay, so there's a bit of lore to break down with Grummz because there's this hit piece that came out recently. I've got thoughts on this to share. So Grummz kind of came into stronger prominence during Gamergate 2. And so when Gamergate 2 started really kick off, and what kicked it off was that Cabrutus he created a Steam group called Sweet Baby Inc. Detected, which was just pointing out if this insanely woke consultancy company worked on several video games.
Oh, okay.
And they tried to basically, like Sweet Baby Inc., one of the employees tried to launch a hate campaign, a coordinated, hate campaign to try and get their thing taken down, but also get Cabrutus's Steam account banned, and he would lose all his games and stuff. And it was a coordinated hate campaign. And then that backfired on them, and then they claimed they had a coordinated hate campaign set against themselves, and they played victim, all that stuff. Grummz was defending Cabrutus very actively on Twitter and rose to quite a lot of prominence. And his Twitter account has a big following now, and he is what people would call kind of like a culture warrior, pushing back against the woke, trying to advocate for sexy women back in video games a lot. He likes the sexy women, and there are things to discuss about that. And that like Elon Musk even follows him and retweets him a couple of times. Okay, and so as a result, he has a big kind of following target. Now there's a target on him because of that effectiveness. And he's shown himself to be a pretty good collector of information. I have shared heaps of his tweets where he exposes woke stuff that's going on in both the gaming industry, culturally, and stuff like that. And so his Twitter account is actually a pretty good follow to get a decent amount of breaking news around culture war related stuff. Like I said, I've shared a lot of his tweets and everything. He's a former game developer. He was like the head, I forget the role he had for World of Warcraft, dude. So he worked for, he's got
Games Workshop?
Blizzard.
Oh, is that Blizzard? What's Games Workshop?
World of Warcraft. Games Workshop is Warhammer.
Oh, okay.
440K.
I can see where I got those two confused.
Yeah. He used to work at Blizzard, and so he has actually a really good insight into the video game industry. And he was the one that has a lot of like connections and game developers. And one of the like, you know, kind of wild things that he was breaking during Gamergate 2 was he shared some direct reports from game developers as to why they're making so many of the women ugly in video games. And that is just like by the way, are they making, you know, women ugly in video games? Yes. You can't deny that at this point. Right. It's a blatant and undeniable. We've shared some screenshots in the past. I want to try and get one up if I can share it, because oh no, that's a different one. We looked at this on our previous live stream, and so I think this is it. Let me bring this up here. Here are some video game characters that we have looked at this in a previous live stream, where the male actor that the character is based on versus the video game adaptation looks one for one. Yet the female ones, all the video game versions look so more ugly or mannish or strange, changed or something, where they're doing it fine for the guys, but they're purposely doing it wrong for the girls, and even shared something that's built into Unreal Engine that makes it hard to make attractive female characters. And so this has been going on. And one of the things that Grummz shared about this, he had the actual game devs tell him one of the reasons why they've made so many of the women characters look more manly is because they were afraid to offend trans people who had trouble passing as the opposite gender. No joke. That was direct something that Grummz reported, and it's true as well. Like crazy, right? And
extraordinarily stupid.
Yeah. Did a video on that. And so Grummz has shared some really interesting and important stuff, exposing this woke infestation in video games and the culture generally. And as a result, because he's been really effective at reporting this stuff, his Twitter following has grown massively. The hate that has come after him is crazy. Thing is, though, Grummz also has some controversy that surrounds him that goes back a bit. And so after he left Blizzard, I don't know the exact timeline, he launched a Kickstarter to crowdfund his own video game to develop. All right. Mm-hmm. And there's been a lot of accusations of fraud, you know, because the game hasn't been released. It's been, I don't know how long, but too long. Claims that backers are complaining, but Grummz actually has, shared a counter to that. All right. And Upper Echelon Gaming did a video talking about Grummz and in the process of development. And Grummz even talked to him about this. And a lot of wild accusations get thrown about. From my perspective on the video game development side. So just sharing something out. Yep, it's stuff like this getting exposed, which is why Grummz is so effective. Okay. I really do feel a lot of these hit pieces that are, launched against Grummz is because he is so effective in the culture war stuff. I think that is a true thing. Doesn't mean that the accusations are necessarily untrue, but they very well could be. In actual fact, we'll talk about the recent hit piece, the attempts of to try and discredit him and take him down in terms of prominence and support. But let's talk about the video game stuff. So my kind of take on the crowdfunding for Grummz's video game and things is pretty basic. Okay. In this instance, especially with my, experience with crowdfunding, is you can ascribe most of the failed Kickstarters to incompetence over maliciousness. Okay. Most Kickstarters fail to deliver based on mismanagement of funds, not intent to defraud backers. Now, having said that, Grummz is still adamant that the game is going to be released. And so I think a lot of people trying to, write him off because the game hasn't been developed, I think no. I've seen games take a lot longer, still haven't come out, with nowhere near half the amount of hate lobbed against it than I've seen the hit pieces against Grummz. Star Citizen is an interesting example because maybe there has been, because there's a lot of criticism against Star Citizen for not being released yet, and that game is like crowdfunded bonkers money, and it is being so long. I just need to double check. Sorry, are you still there? You're muted.
Yeah, I was gonna say even like guys with like tens of millions of dollars, it still takes freaking forever for a lot of these games to come out.
Oh,
I used to work in the industry. We had games that like, but by the time they were ready to come out, the tech was too old, so we had to scrap it and start over again with the graphics. And it's like this kind of stuff happens.
It does. Like, I have a connection with a Kickstarter that failed. All right, and now this wasn't my project, but this was the short film for Shadow of the Conqueror. Doradia Productions approached me to want to produce the short film, and I was like, hey, yeah, that sounds cool. All right, I'll even help you promote it, and I'll try and support the project in every way I can. But I was very clear from the beginning, this is your project, though. Okay, this is a Doradia Productions project. It's also in the contract because they will own the film when it comes out. I won't own it, and they would be able to, they had the ability to merchandise it, like the T-shirts that they were selling based on the short film. They're getting profits and stuff like that. And from the very beginning, very clear that all the money raised on the Kickstarter, I was never going to see a cent of it. Okay. It was all going into production. It raised over $100,000. And I traveled to Canada on my own dime. I paid thousands and thousands of dollars from my money, not the Kickstarter money, to get there, to be part of the production. I was actually a character in the film, and I ended up almost directing it there because they appreciated my feedback so much. Really positive experience, actually. Really positive experience. The unfortunate thing is there wasn't enough money to finish the Kickstarter. They got the filming done, and their plans to try and get funding to finish it off fell through. They were relying, and I thought this was a poor plan to begin with, and I kind of cautioned them about this, that they were relying on certain film funds. There are like these filmmaking, production funds you can get in Canada. And that's what they were going to rely on to try and finish the film, and they fell through. And so ultimately, Kickstarter has not been delivered, and Doradia Productions has released a video explaining where it's at, and that it's all post-production. The film still might be able to get finished with other tools that are now available, which is, I find, very intriguing. So it's not actually completely dead, but it's on them to finish it. Okay.
Right.
And
they have enough in pre-production to make a full.
The whole thing is filmed. The whole thing is filmed.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So it's like you can even add stuff in post-production with the AI, that'll make it into something even.
Yeah. And actually it'll look better than before. Like, genuinely, if they finished off the film with AI tools, it will look way better than if they had to pay for traditional, and the budget, they have no money to really, so it would have been low, or cheap visual effects as it was, right? And so there still is a glimmer of hope for the Shadow of the Conqueror short film in that regard. Still will take a good amount of effort to work on it and finish it off, all right? But Doradia Productions released a statement, and here's the thing: I can guarantee everyone, right? No single dollar was put in someone's pocket fraudulently at all. Every single dollar went into the production. The guy who headed the production, genuinely honest, decent, hardworking guy, Dylan, right? He spent so many unpaid hours working on the film. All right. Heaps of people worked on that production unpaid, and it was a really thin budget as it was. Unfortunately, it didn't get delivered. And the planning was unfortunately just I guess not well thought out, which caused it to fall apart. This is just one example of a Kickstarter that, didn't deliver, but it wasn't based on any ill intent or, desire to defraud, backers or anything like that. And I see that a decent amount with, you know, a number of Kickstarters. Heck, my own brother, Jazza, has had a pretty failed Kickstarter called Ortis, if you want to look back in the day. This is old school law, that.
Oh, yeah?
That's, and I saw, like, the whole process where the money dried up, but every single dollar was put into the production of the thing. Okay? It wasn't stolen, put into people's pocket just for a cash grab. And so Grummz at the moment does have the benefit of doubt that it seems like this is more likely what's going on. And on top of that, he's been very insistent that the game is still coming out. He's released recently and said recently that a new build of the game is coming out really soon, that is devoted heaps of time into it, and that he is fully committed to deliver on it. And so I think, you know, the natural response for me in this is like, wait and see. All right. Other Kickstarters have taken even longer to deliver, and he's determined that it's coming out. And a lot of the claims that people are trying to say, there's like, I don't know, either weird tax evasion stuff because his mum is on the company, and other things, doesn't really pan out, and he has addressed things himself. And so on that front, I think the fair thing is to wait and see. Okay, and even if it doesn't get delivered, I think it's a pretty reasonable take to just, you know, take him at his word that the money, if the money's dried up, but yeah, I don't exactly know how much money is left in the pipeline for the production, other things like that, because it's still in production. And so it doesn't seem like to me that intentional fraud has taken place, or that he just, you know, has used the Kickstarter or crowdfunding development as a cash grab to take his money and run. A lot of people have written Grummz off already just on that side alone. I don't think there's enough, you know, of what would you say, evidence to destroy his reputation, nor to discredit the work that he does in the culture war. So that's kind of my take on the Kickstarter thing. And if he follows through, I mean, that's gonna, you know, shut down all these claims of that it was, you know, fraud, cash grab, all these terrible things. Because
how long ago was it?
A couple of years at least, like, you know. So Grummz has a dedicated group of haters, right? And he has claims that a heap of them got access to the games development Discord group. And that they came on to trash the game and say, you're not delivering, and I want my money back and stuff like that. And that they weren't real backers. And people were taking screenshots trying to say the backers are in an uproar. And they're all trying to, you know, Grummz is into honoring, you know, their demands to get their money back and things like that. And Grummz' claim is that, no, these are actual, like, liars, you know, they're not even real backers. And and he says that they found all the lying backers and blocked them, and that all the actual real backers are still happy with the game's development and they're all still on board to support. That's what Grummz says.
And 2 years isn't long.
It might be more than 2 years, mate. It might be like 5. Yeah, I don't know how long exactly. Yeah.
But 2 years is like minimum on a game.
Oh, that's nothing.
Minimum.
Yeah.
That's like a chess game.
Yeah. And so, like, as Nathan says, there's a lot of moderate right-wingers who are dismissing him based on that Kickstarter by mistake, if you ask me. That's kind of my take on it at the moment. And at the very least, he says that the game is still coming out. He says there's a new, like, build of the game going to be released. And so if he says that, it's pretty easy to, you know, wait until that comes, you know, wait and see. It's not going to take too long for this new build to, as he says. And so if you want to test his word, there's something to test right here and now. And if he follows through on it, you know, that's
what kind of game is it? It's not MMO, is it?
I've seen only some screenshots. It's like this mecha, could be shooter, arena shooter type thing. I've seen some screenshots of how it looks. And guess what? It also has sexy women in it as well. He's shown some sexy women, you know, characters. And yeah, and I don't think it's an MMO. MMOs would be like, that's crazy huge development. I think it's more like a arena shooter, from my understanding.
Well, you know, crazy hot women take time.
They do. All right, so I do find it interesting that some people that just like, think Grummz is a complete fraud based on that. And like I said, my experience with Kickstarter projects and things doesn't give me that impression yet. I'm not saying I can't be swayed with additional evidence, but that's my kind of take on it at the moment. So people still use that to attack him constantly. More recently, a very interesting thing has come out to try and take Grummz down. And this is where I am interested in your view, because, well, both you and I are pretty, conservative Christians, even though we differ on doctrinal points and even other, I guess, practical points. Pornography is an interesting topic because we've even argued about this. We both hate pornography. We both think it's evil and bad. I think banning it would cause more problems, even though I would happily choose of my own accord to live in a community without it. If everyone can agree to ban it, I'm perfectly happy with that. I think forcing it on others is where we come into issues where, Mike, you're in favor of a ban, and because you think it's that destructive, it's worth a ban. And so we both have pretty strong views on pornography. I'm going to hazard a guess, though, Mike, that you're probably friends and associate with people who view pornography and even like it. Is that it?
It would be. I'm not a hermit.
Yeah, I know. I was a rhetorical. It was one of those obvious questions, right? All right. Here's another question. What if you found out that one of those associates made porn in the past?
I mean, you'd have to be more specific, like
what type of porn is that?
Like, what have you been doing, Shad?
No, not me. Not me.
If I found out it was part of their past, I mean, I don't know. I don't know anybody that does it has done that per se, but it's like I wouldn't be like, that everybody's got their sins to bear. So
this is true. So that's one of the interesting. Now, I know Christians can be very judgmental, okay, but I think the left sometimes expects Christians to be as judgmental as them, where I see far less. I see far less people in the conservative movement ready to cancel someone based on their past than what the left is. The left usually finds something in their past, either wearing blackface. By the way, I should also caveat this was that the left is only so aggressively ready to cancel someone for their past if it's expedient for them to do so.
Right.
If it's not expedient to do so, they will hide it. They will excuse some of the most vile crap in the world if it serves their purposes.
Right. I mean, to an extent, I mean, both sides are probably guilty of that a little bit, because it's like when somebody's on the other side of the aisle, you'll find reasons to tear them down. But yeah, I mean, generally speaking, look, everybody knows Trump's an adulterer. It's like, yeah, but we're not hiring him to be the nation's priest.
Well, you could probably predict where this is going. So Grummz has come out and talked about his past and, admitted he wasn't really reluctant to divulge his information. He got wind that a group of dedicated haters that are in this Discord, right, dug up some information about him through illegal means, he claims, and he's saying that he's going to get the FBI onto the case for this, right? Finding out that he ran and managed several pornographic websites in the past. And he actually, to get ahead of this, went on Flashcast just this weekend and talked about it all and actually divulged even more information than what they thought they had on him to just explain it. And I'll explain to you, the details that he shared, the ins and outs and all that stuff. There is an interesting comparison in terms of a figure that, is also, I guess, somewhat on the right. I don't think he's very much on the right, but has a past with producing pornography. That's Andrew Tate.
He's still a scumbag, though.
Exactly. Like, I hate Andrew Tate.
Like he's currently embroiled in scumbag.
Yeah.
And he's never like all that stuff you said in the past about the e-thoughts and using them and basically ripping off simps and all of that stuff. He's not remorseful about it at all.
Never admitted guilt or apologized for any of this stuff.
Scam
and
scumbag, yeah.
Yeah, and the things he has said about, how he, abused the girls working for him and purposely doing it to take advantage of desperate, lonely men, and he admitted he's admitted that he groomed a 15-year-old girl to work as in sex work for him and other things like that, and he says similar stuff even far more recently. Okay. And so things coming out like this is enough for me to dislike a person, not want to support them. Okay. And I want to try and be as, consistent in my standards. All right. Grummz has said on Flashcast that he thinks pornography has gone too far and he doesn't think it's good for society now. And it's like, okay, all right. That is now he could just be saying that. All right, that's just his word, but I'm willing to take him on his word at the moment, and it's nothing even close to the level of, I guess, contrition or change of heart that someone like Tate has ever even approached. Okay. So already, I don't see too much of an equivalence between these two people. The other thing is that I don't see Tate showing any remorse at all or a change in attitude. And I think I would dislike him just for his attitude and how he has talked about, women and relationships in the past as well. And it's not to say that he hasn't said things that I would agree with, broken clock is right twice a day. And he has said things that, obviously. All right. But I don't see a huge equivalence in these two. Now, going into some of the details that Grummz shared about it, right? It's funny because I think pornography is evil. I don't like it. I wouldn't, take away people's right to consume it. And I also have the best way to describe it is probably more liberal views on pornography than most Christians, where I don't think all nudity is necessarily pornographic. And I don't think anything, so what's the way to phrase it? Is that something that even has a certain amount of clothing can be pornographic as well. And so it's what's the intent behind it? Is it made to encourage people to commit sexual sin? Is that the intent behind it? And I don't think if something just has nudity in it necessarily has that. Okay. And that can be sometimes a more liberal, approach to what is considered pornography than other Christians, where if there's any type of, nudity, private parts, no, it's bad. I've got a video describing this as my Goonagate video, which I did find an interesting subject. But this is kind of, partially related, because I think all pornography is bad, and what I would consider pornography, which might be different to other people, other Christians even. But then there are also extremities in how bad the pornography is as well. And Grummz, even though this is an excuse, Grummz says that he only ever made what is called softcore pornography. And that's
Skinamax.
Is that what it is? Skinamax, Mike? What's Skinamax, Mike?
You know what Cinemax is?
Yeah. Well, hang on. Cinemax. Isn't that like a review website or something?
No. So Cinemax was part of the cable channels, and it's like at night, if you had Cinemax, after 10 p.m., everything that just turned into softcore porn.
Oh, okay.
So it was never any penetration or anything, but it's just everything but that, pretty much. You could.
Okay. Well, I'm in Australia, so we didn't have the cable.
Yeah, it's called Cinemax, but people called it Skinamax because after 10 o'clock.
Okay. So that seems to be the type of stuff that it was making.
It's kind of gross because you notice if HBO is called Max now because they merged with Cinemax.
Oh,
okay. Thing, but I don't think they do. They don't do all that stuff anymore. So, but yeah.
And so on Flashcast, he talked about the type of stuff that he was making, and a lot of it seemed like it was anime hentai softcore stuff, where they would write stories to begin with, like, I don't know, provocative, sexual-based, stories for these anime characters or something like that. And as a result, he would pose as some of these fictional characters that they were making. There was like, I don't know, a head character for one of the websites, and then they would use that as marketing, and they would have like bait, either websites or things to try and get people, to come into theirs. And so the claim is that Grummz pretended to be a woman because he took on what would equivalent be like a pen name, I guess, to get people to come onto the website. And this is not like, what are you laughing at?
Just keep going.
You need to let me know now.
No, I'm just laughing at this situation.
This whole situation, like, well, like I said, he went into a decent amount of detail about all this stuff, and
so
it turns out, I guess so. I guess he was a trap. That is an interesting topic just on itself, about men writing female characters. Because, by the way, authors do this. I wrote a female character in my novel. She's a prominent female character, right? And technically, what is that? Me pretending to be a woman?
No. It's like John Delarose using a pen name Daniela Sarah to do romance novels because nobody wants to read a straight white man's romance novel. So you just use a fake name.
Yeah.
And there it is.
Doesn't surprise, like a pseudo name, like a fake name. This is very like Robert Jordan, right?
Yeah.
Who wrote Wheel of Time. That's not his real name, everyone.
No.
Robin Hobb. Didn't she write Assassin's Apprentice? I think. But she's a prominent fantasy author. Not her real name, and one of the reasons. She picked a name that was gender ambiguous, that it could sound like a man's name. So, because they were worried that men wouldn't read the book if they thought a woman wrote it. And
Mark Twain.
This isn't anything shocking to me, but anyway, people are attacking Grummz. He pretended to be a woman. I'm like, not to the level that
maybe slightly different if it's a porn site.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe. I don't know if he was in.
Grummz is a trap. Please do.
I don't know. Well, maybe. Was he in chat pretending to be?
I don't know what he did.
I don't know.
This is all new to me, man.
Because it's come out that Tate literally was in chat pretending to be his cam girls. To sucker in these guys to spend more money on them. But also he said like he would fool these guys to think that, either the girl or they would meet up or travel across the world and other things like that.
Tate? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Tate. Yeah. And Tate would fool them to giving them.
But
fraudulent stuff. Say that like, if you give me this amount of money, we'll be able to, travel together or something like that. Yeah. And so a lot of my dislike for Tate, right? I guess the pornography just is what icing on the cake. Because if someone changes, right, I will associate people who have different standards to me. And I think the example for this is Christ, okay? Christ was attacked by the scribes and Pharisees for associating with what they considered sinners. Mm-hmm. And his reply was, the Son of Man hath not come to... he says the whole have no physician. The whole hath no need for a physician, meaning the whole, which means healthy. Those who are healthy don't need a doctor, is essentially saying. Mm-hmm. And the Son of Man hath come to administer those who, needed him. And so he associated with the sinners and stuff like that. And so this idea that Christians should never associate with people who either support or do different things.
You'd be alone.
You would be alone, and it is not a Christian teaching at all anyway. All right. I love the guys on FNT. These guys are some of the most real, genuine, like good people, right? We have very different standards. A lot of them love pornography, right? but they are still such good people.
Talking about Ryan, aren't you?
I'm talking about them all. Ryan's a funny one. Ryan almost laughs as someone worse than what he is. Like,
I met Ryan at an early Geeks and Gamers meetup in San Diego Comic-Con when Jeremy and Gary were trying to convince him to do YouTube.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was before he joined, and it was before he was doing a YouTube channel. But I guess they saw it in him, and they're like, "You gotta do it, you gotta do it."
But I mean, Gary, he loves boobs, and he talks about it on streams. We've talked about it on streams and stuff. And I'm there saying, "Look, the boobs in House of the Dragons, it was unnecessary." And Gary's like, "Yeah, bring up the boobs and stuff." But Gary is such a great guy, like a genuinely good person. Okay. And yes, we have different standards, but the idea that, you would never associate with it. And so now I do admit, producing pornography is a step much further than consuming it. All right. I agree there. Grummz isn't producing it anymore. And he even thinks pornography is bad, though he does like the sexy women. Same with a lot of other people, but that's no reason to not associate with someone on those grounds. Okay, so that's part of the thing that came out. They were expecting this to be like expose him and that it would destroy his marriage and other things like that. Turns out his wife was part of the business when he was making it. So,
well, there you go.
There you go. So that was that didn't pan out. The thing that Grummz was upset about is that he needs to now explain this to his children because he doesn't want his children your dad. But he said his children, a lot of their teenagers are grown up 15 years old, 18 years old, and stuff like that. So they're mature enough to understand. So I was going to explain that to them. And but he was upset that this could affect his kids. And look, I get that.
Yeah, for sure.
And so that's kind of most of the thing. Like, so he said he actually made a lot of money off of this, and this is what helped him develop the game, which got the eye of Blizzard, and that's how Blizzard ended up hiring his whole kind of early company, and that's how he ended up working on Blizzard, and it was funded by these porn websites that are all taken down because it was like the early days of that type of thing. But he did say he made a lot of money off of it, which, yeah, I could imagine that's the case, like the early days. Sorry, what was that?
No, you go ahead. You just reminded me of something. I want to look it up, but you go ahead.
So, yeah, he says he made a lot of money off of it, but that actually led into him doing game development and other things. So, as to my views on a Christian, I think I've mostly expressed that for me, I don't think this is nearly enough to write him off or his work in the culture war, because it comes to another important topic for me, is about infighting generally as well as infighting on the right, because we've seen a decent amount of it kind of recently, and a lot of the recent stuff, especially the Goonagate stuff, I found completely pointless and unneeded. Some infighting, though, I think has some ground to it, some validity. I don't think, you should support everyone who's just on your side per se, because there is a line. My line, I've expressed where one of my lines are with Andrew Tate, just because people would think that we're on the same side, is like, no. I mean, there's a line when people do actually do something that is despicable enough where I don't like the person, I don't want to support him. Like for Mike, where would that line be for you think, where someone kind of crosses and is like, don't want to associate or support at this point?
I mean, I generally don't want to talk to liars.
like blatant malicious dishonesty is a big one, actually.
I can't. Yeah. I mean, I teach that to my kids and all my kids' friends, anybody who'll listen. It's like the easiest way to destroy a relationship is by lying, because you can't. Once someone has lied to you, every single thing they say is suspect. And it's like, how can you have an open, honest relationship with somebody like that? So
interesting. Like, this is the type of attacks that people are lobbying against. Grummz is a degenerate freak and a scammer, and we've talked about a lot of the ground, foundation for that. I don't see enough evidence to qualify him as a scammer. He's still saying the game is coming out. So, and look, maybe he is, but this time, like, I think there's enough there to give him a measure of wait and find out. Like, it's not enough to write him off as a scammer, nowhere near in my mind. There's questionable things, but like I said, my experience with Kickstarter in the past is that more often it seems, and there's no evidence of him just like pocketing the cash either. It's usually just the money gets consumed in the production and it wasn't enough to complete the project. That's usually what I see more often with Kickstarters. Now, as a degenerate freak, depends on your scale. I think I probably associate with a number of people who, depending on their scale, might be considered degenerate freaks and maybe happily admit so. Savvy, fun to talk to. I enjoy seeing her on streams, and we have differences. We even had a bit of a conflicted back and forth on AI art recently. Nothing even close to, I feel, wanting to ruin a friendly association. But I know she draws porn, like hentai stuff, right? And I think she does. I'm confident she does. But I know she's into it. I know she likes it.
You haven't been to her DeviantArt page.
I have not been to a DeviantArt. Should I double check it? No, I don't want to know, because if it's
look, like guys like you, probably more so me. I don't know. I have a very low threshold for who I'll call degenerate. So it's how far down the degenerate spectrum are you asking?
Exactly. Because I think even Savvy would happily admit that she's a degenerate, right? In that regard,
most will, and that's the thing. Because if you don't think being a degenerate there's anything wrong with it, then that's part of you're like that. Yeah, I'm a degenerate. So what?
Well,
it's not an insult for most degenerates.
I guess there are levels, isn't there? But by 1950s standard, most people in the world are degenerates in that sense. By modern standards, what you have to be like Louis C.K. Jerking off in front of women, right? To call it. And I think that, like, shouldn't we all admit that is definitely a line for degeneracy right there. Like Harvey Weinstein, Louis C.K. kind of sexual deviancy and actual abuse is there's a line, right? And the problem with trying to lambast, people who, I guess, enjoy porn, and once again, I disagree with it, right? Even people who have made porn in the past as sexual degenerates, one of the problems with labeling that is that it kind of throws them in the same basket as unequivocal, like indisputable sexual degenerates like Louis C.K. and Harvey Weinstein and stuff like that, when there's actually a massive gulf of difference between those two.
Spectrum of degeneracy.
There is, right? And so my concern would be
they even made a flag.
Ouch. Well, that's kind of like depending on the scale, like most people are degenerates in that sense. And I have far more, prudish standards as a Christian. Okay. And from an even, because there are very
and that's the thing. If somebody wants to call me a prude, I don't care.
Doesn't bother me. But also, there's a more strict kind of Christian scale of degeneracy, where that's where the whole Goonagate controversy was, where they thought a girl in a leotard shaking her ass was porn, and they called that degenerate. When to me, that's nowhere near as bad as other stuff by any means. And so. Yeah, like just throwing that accusation out seems to be almost an attempt to make people look worse than what they are, because the actual level of unequivocal sexual degeneracy is really bad, and throwing them all in the same basket, I think, is a bit of manipulative wordplay. And it's not to say that from my own more conservative standards, it's not sexual degeneracy. Yeah, from my own, but yeah, kind of is. But
it is kind of funny when people on the left accuse people of being degenerates, though, because
I know that.
Every single one of them.
It was like the left lost their mind at Stellar Blade, which had skimpy outfits and everything like that, but was friggin' cheering absolutely cheering sex with a bear in Baldur's Gate 3, right?
They're out of the gay pride parades picketing freaking Baldur's Gate or whatever.
They have naked men shaking their thing in front of children at pride parades, right? Yeah. And yet still a blade was beyond the pale. It's like, oh my gosh, right?
Yep.
The hypocrisy. This Book of Grudges for 4 says, as a Christian, if I couldn't associate with anyone who did something I disagreed with, I could never associate with anyone, including myself.
Yep.
100%.
Correct, sir.
Everyone, all the sins can come fallen short of the glory of God, right? Yep. Absolutely. And Christians do things that we disagree with because we're fallible and imperfect. And so that's one of the whole principles behind, the actual true principle behind, not judging others, because the people quote it a lot and misunderstand it, where it's like, no, you're supposed to hold standards. Not judging doesn't mean abandoning standards, but also not judging also means not being a hypocrite, okay? And if you write off someone because they're a sinner,
the whole not judging thing is about not being a hypocrite.
Yes, that's the whole point. And if you write someone off for being a sinner, right, that kind of condemns you because you're a sinner too. They just sin differently. Having said, I do think there's a scale. I think there is an extremity of bad actions where kind of needs to be condemned. That is not to say you won't forgive them if they try and forgive. The door for forgiveness should always be opened, except for the most insane of evils. But even said that, people tried to test Christ on this, and they tried to say, how many times should we forgive our neighbor if he trespasses against us? And he says, basically, like
that was our brother.
All right. Yeah.
How many times should you forgive a brother? And what is it? But careful what it says there, because it says if he sins and then, or if he trespasses and then he comes and repents, then you forgive him 70 times 7. Yeah. It's not just blanket forgiveness for anybody who's unrepentant. Mm-hmm.
Members of my church, Latter-day Saints, have an even more clear scripture about this. The Doctrine and Covenants, as a scripture says, I, the Lord, will forgive whom I will forgive, but of you it is required to forgive all men. And there's like no room for misinterpretation on that level. And the reason why we're expected to forgive all people, because we need forgiveness. It's not to say that doesn't mean condemning or excusing sin or bad actions, okay? The difference in condemning a sin, but not the sinner. And so, absolutely, as Christians, that door for forgiveness should be open, and we willing to associate. And even like I said, I hate Tate. And this is part, I have to admit, this is probably even a bit difficult for me because I loathe some of the things that is done. But as a Christian, I need to understand that door for forgiveness needs to be left open, even for Tate, if he shows repentance or contrition for his actions, right? Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Hate the sin, love the sinner, no limit for forgiveness, okay? And as a Christian, I will absolutely still associate with people, who are not actively fighting against me or when they have different standards, I'll still associate with them. And I love the guys on FNT, and we have different standards. And at this point, like Grummz, for the reasons that we've kind of discussed right here, is that none of this doesn't make me write the guy off or think that he doesn't do important, useful work in the culture war, or that I wouldn't be willing to get along with him. I'm sure we might appear in some, live streams eventually. I go on the Flashcast now and then, and Grummz appears as Flashcast regularly, so I'll probably run into each other, and I'm happy to associate with him. And I'm very happy that he believes pornography is gone too far. I was like, well, common ground. We can definitely agree on that. And so this attempt to try and destroy him, they were hoping that this is going to be enough for the more conservative audience to just want to disassociate.
That's all it is. Because they don't have any problem with porn at all.
No,
I don't know anybody on the left who has any problem with porn.
Isn't that true?
Not a single freaking one of them.
This is all people claiming moral outrage for stuff that they do not care about themselves. They're hoping that other people...
It's hypocritical virtue signaling. It's the worst kind of hypocrisy.
Absolutely. These are people who actively celebrate sex work. And I think sex work is horribly abusive and evil and leads to some of the most... traumatized, damaged women end up going into it, and it makes things worse for them. And there is such horrible abuse in the sex works industry. And the left wants to celebrate as this great thing. And that is so much infinitely worse in my mind than a guy that made, hentai porn back in the day. Admittedly, he did end up eventually hiring models because the websites got successful. His claim was that he treated the models really, really well. Like he, put on buffets for them and rented or hired like fancy hotels for shoots and stuff and everything. And I think he was saying that to counteract any possibility that he claims that he might have abused the girls that ended up working for him and stuff, because that is where it kind of gets into the sex work realm, but not completely. Like actual sex realm is sex work is when the woman is going to provide the service directly. If I can try and state that somewhat tactfully. And yeah, dudes. They are. OnlyFans. I despise OnlyFans, right? And I despise the porn websites that Grummz made. I think it's disgusting and degenerate, and I think it was an evil, right? I'm not excusing any of that by any means. It's not to say that I wouldn't be willing to associate with him, because I think he's actually... Because people can still be good people at their core, even by doing bad things. We can admit that, all right? I think that's a Christian standard that you have to acknowledge, because we're all sinners, and I'm not a perfect person. There's extremities and levels, but one of the hopes is that if someone is doing bad things, even though they're a good person at their core, the hope is that through association, you might be able to bring them closer to Christ. That's the goal. And so that's why it's actually important to still try and, I guess, associate and not write people off. Oh, but the thing that tests me most, Mike, is Tate. Because
unrepentant douchebag.
Yeah. He pushes me, man. He freaking pushes me. And it's more his attitude than what he does, right? Even what he has done. Even though what he has done is loathsome. But it's also that attitude that really... And so I'm not perfect. I'm not saying this is just like I'm painting an easy picture of this is what it is. I'm not saying I wouldn't struggle to try and live the most Christ-like standard that we're talking about here. Because I would. I still have my own biases. Grummz isn't there not from the information that's come out. And I've listened to him on streams and everything like that. He seems like a nice guy at the core. He seems like a decent, nice guy. He's done bad things in the past. Has different standards that I'll consider bad now. That's the same with other friends I have. And so ultimately, this whole kind of takedown does seem like a pretty big nothing burger at the end of the day, especially from the left, who are just a massive backpack of hypocrites, because the people that have done this, they're the ones celebrating the sex work stuff massively, right? And then they want to try and, use other people's standards against Grummz when they it's hypocrisy. Because what did you say? It was the worst type of hypocrisy? Because you put it really well when we just talked about that.
Oh yeah, it's hypocritical virtue signaling.
Hypocritical virtue signaling. Gosh. And it's all an attempt to try and take down what is actually a very effective person in the culture war. Now, I don't think just because someone is effective in the culture war sense excuses them of bad behavior. There are standards that I think people should object to.
No, but then it sounds like he's repentant. I haven't heard his story yet, but that's what matters, is if you're repentant or not.
Yeah, absolutely. I think about some of the infighting that's happened in the conservative sphere, in the past. And I think some of the infighting between the more conservative types and the pop culture types is mostly useless, but it happens. And this is like Matt Walsh triggers it a lot when he criticizes pop culture. The Goonagate thing was a perfect example where we saw rifts arising between people.
Okay.
Timeout.
Flag on the play. Flag on the play.
Flag on the play.
You can't give Matt Walsh grief for freaking baiting people on Twitter after what you did yesterday.
Okay, is there a moral difference between AI and culture war stuff?
You're baiting your audience. You did the exact same thing with AI that Matt Walsh did. He just did it because he knew he'd get that response.
I'm
and so
not
did
sure
you. And
that's
don't say
the
you
same thing, Mike. I'm not sure that's the same thing.
Somebody asked me what I thought about it. I'm like, he set the hook and you all freaking bit it. I'm like,
I know massively. Holy crap!
So for those of you who don't follow Shad on Twitter, yesterday he posted a Studio Ghibli piece and then a Studio Ghibli piece that was like fully rendered in AI. And he says that,
should I share it?
Go ahead. It was so ridiculous. I'm like, oh, freaking Shad, you're going to get so many hits off of this.
Hang on. Something
Andy
on
Contreras
my
says busted. Zeta says busted. It's the same thing. Zeta says they're the same picture.
Man, something in the background on my computer is playing really loudly and it's not muted. So hang on. I need to close some screens because I don't know what is playing and it's just really loud. What the hell is going on? Is it your screen or my screen?
I got nothing playing.
I don't know. Hang on. I might need a... I only have one window open and I'm getting some noise blaring.
Do you have another browser?
I have just closed every other window except this one, and I have a noise blaring. All right, I might need to close and reconnect. Mike, can you hold the fort for a bit?
I can.
I'll be back in just a sec. Wait, it just stopped playing. What the hell was that? That was some real, like, I had this loud video, and I think it was an autoplay something on Twitter or something, blaring in my speakers.
It wasn't playing on here, so.
Well, that was really weird, and I could barely hear you. All right, let's get back to the topic at hand. Yeah, I shared this on Twitter. And
I was gonna do that. It's a trap.
Let's share this. So what prompted it, right, is that all the so I put it, the AI version looks better and crying about it won't change that. This was like nuclear bait. Holy crap.
12.3 million views. Oh my gosh. Holy cow. If you were not monetized on Twitter already, you are now.
So the AI haters, right, are so unhinged, and they will not listen to any reasonable discussion that you know, I just knew that this is going to set them off, even though it's objectively true. Looking at the character design specifically, if you break it down to the characters, because
don't go there. Don't go there. Miyazaki is one of the greatest animators.
I agree. This is
literally an animation versus a still frame.
But see, I'm not like, I even said the animation is quality. The animation is great. I'm talking about the art style, flat, that. But it was so funny because people get so triggered, they miss the very clear argument I made. And it was very clear. It's like the base art style itself, I think, is plain and uninspired. I think the Disney art style is more expressive, was more innovative, and inspired a lot more people and a lot more artistic kind of expressions through beyond that. Okay, I actually think the Miyazaki
which Disney art style? Disney didn't just have one art style.
Well, it really became innovative with Sleeping Beauty, where they started to exaggerate certain proportion. So no. More rotoscope was done on Snow White. The first one that started to get the classic Disney look was Sleeping Beauty, massively innovative, where you can look at some of the designs and they still hold up. and it was stylized, and that's what I would consider quite inspired. And then you get to the more classic Disney style, like Little Mermaid, specifically with how the eyes look and things. Yeah, I think that is way superior. And I'm talking about the art style, the actual look of the characters here. Okay. I think the Ghibli style has certain limitations and honestly looks plain. Like one of the things that Ghibli struggles with is, I think, a certain level of cuteness and expression. I think it could do ugly really well. The thing that makes Ghibli genuinely brilliant is how they animate. The animation is just fluid, flawless, how it's integrated with the backgrounds. And I've complimented Ghibli in this post, right? At no point did I ever say I hate Ghibli. I said the art style is plain and uninspired. And as to the art style as well,
say uninspired. You can
in
say
what
it's
way?
plain, but it's simple because it's animation. So, they need to crank these things out. But
well, that's not an excuse. I think there are animation styles that are more detailed. Absolutely. Uninspired is a more subjective thing, but I'm entitled to myself. I don't think it was particularly, innovative or groundbreaking. And that to me is that means it's uninspired in that sense. But at no point did I ever say I dislike it. I think it's plain. I think it's adequate, but nothing special. And that's why all the Ghibli kind of AI memes, when I was seeing them all, I was like, yeah, the Ghibli style really is plain. There's nothing that special about it. The thing that sets people, it is an art style, right? The thing that set people off massively was comparing it to AI, because all the haters, they will never acknowledge that AI has any merit, and that just set people off. Now,
13.2 million. Damn.
12.
How much you make up? Oh, 12.3. Yeah.
You don't make much money off this. What's interesting is that it's kind of been a bit of a springboard to debunk some issues or falsehoods they are, because following up on that tweet, right, I shared a new time lapse of how I make my AI art, and that has had real strong positive reception, which is this here.
I saw that one too. How many views does that
have? This one is at 246,000. I mean, much higher than my average. My average only get like 20 to 50,000 views at best, and so it's got boosted by the what's going on at the moment. And the reaction to this time lapse is really, really positive, because it's showing that AI can be one. It shows me drawing. And everyone is like, pick up a pencil. I'm like, guys, I've drawn most of my whole life. And so it debunks that whole thing that artists should never use AI, or I'm not an artist, because that's one of the things that people like to try. And they also there's this lie about me trying to say that I claim I'm an artist because I make AI images. It's like, no, I claim I'm an artist because I draw. I'm a professional author, and I also make video production. By all those standards, by the metric and standards that all these people are attacking me, I'm an artist according to those standards. But they love to try and, it's like, oh, you're not an artist. Like, show yes. Well, no, I actually know how to draw. And what's funny is, I don't think I'm anything special as an illustrator. Like, Mike, you are a talented freaking illustrator. You're that was blocked. You're like one of the best in the world in what you do. You've got this great pedigree of work and everything like that. That's like, I am nothing special. But what's funny, right, is that when you see a lot of these critics attacking me, which are like, making furry porn commissions over and stuff like that, right? Their artwork is either about equivalent to mine or worse, right? And they're the ones like, you're not an artist and all this stuff. When it's like, you're not that special either, but all right, But this one has done really well, because it's showing that, look, I actually love integrating traditional artistic methods with AI art to enhance it and get crazy fun results. Yep, AI assisted artwork. And it's funny, right? That's what I was trying. The previous AI controversy that happened, I don't know, a year or so ago, where I was, this is like World War II. But this is like not as big as the last one even. But one of the things I was trying to get people to understand is like, no. Like there's a thing called AI assisted art, right?
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't call it AI art, it's AI assisted. And no one was really understanding that. And so I was like, fine, if you just want to call it AI art, I'll call it AI art. This time around, people are like, really, Shad, you can't really call this AI art. This is more like AI assisted art. I'm like, it's just what I've been saying for years, but okay, fine. Like, I'm glad we're on the same page now, you know?
It's funny.
It is funny. All right. Going back on this, because look, you raised an interesting point that I want to unpack, and I'm not sure I can come to specific conclusions, because to me, this has done some interesting, I guess, work in exposing the bias against AI, because people are just trying to slag, because I think to a very objective person, if you're just going to compare, which I was doing, compare the art styles, the old Miyazaki art style to that one, I think it's pretty clear that one image is superior in terms of overall quality and appeal. It's just the nostalgia people have for Miyazaki, which gets them really defensive, and the hate for AI art.
Well, people love his style. That's the thing. You're crapping on something that's a subjective opinion.
But his style isn't anything special. There are so many other animation studios. There are so many other animation studios that have very close equivalent looking styles, and they don't get praised because they have a art style that looks so
right, because it's like more or less anime style. But you're taking anime style and you're putting it in the hands of a master storyteller.
Exactly, because Ghibli has its legacy and prestige because of the stories and execution, the quality of animation, not the art style. If it was the art style, all these other animation studios that have near equivalent art styles would be just as successful and beloved. I think that proves my point. I think there's an objective, actual truth that I'm talking about.
To an extent, but I mean, a lot of anime, I mean, there's not just anime style, but a lot of anime, they use the same directors, use the same illustrators, they use the same general's art style, just with different character designs across the board. Miyazaki has his own particular studio with their own particular artists and whatnot.
Yeah, I wonder what people think when they hear some of Miyazaki's other stances. It turns out that someone say like, oh, he thought anime was a mistake. And I've heard other things where he seems like a pretty judgmental, snobby guy, honestly. It's not to say the quality that he produced isn't good. All right. And I think I love Studio Ghibli animations, not for the art style, though. But yeah, it's triggered so many people. So many people.
As you knew it would. Matt Walsh.
Let's talk about that. So Matt Walsh, right, says things that triggers people that should be on the same side, okay, and causes a greater divide when we should be working together to try and push back against the woke stuff. How am I pushing apart, a divide of people that should be working together per se? I'm kind of exposing hypocrisy with this one, I think. Shad Walsh.
I don't know. I just thought it was funny.
It is funny.
Similar.
Yeah.
Like, oh, Matt Walsh. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah. Well, this one, when I posted this, I said, because this one was 100% bait. And I even said it. I said, wow, looks even better than the plain Ghibli style. And then I go into my point. And then at the end, I said, and yes, the first line was bait. Thanks for biting. And there are some people who like reposted this saying, how dare you say it's playing you to come here? And I responded with a person fishing because I was just like, you took the bait. Oh, man. Yeah. And the hate, because this one has been like a nothing burger to me, because when I saw the dogpiling starting with that tweet, it's all the same type of people and crowd that tried to dogpile and destroy me before. And it triggered a lot of people. And I had, people trying to make videos, lying about me, trying to claim these disingenuous things that I'm insecure and that I'm trying to pretend I'll pay off that my art is better than, great made traditional art. Taking me out of context, because I think an artist like Mike, right? if I produced an AI image that was about equivalent quality and line work to your handmade stuff, I think your handmade stuff is superior because it's handmade and made by, I guess, traditional methods. All right. Mm-hmm. And I value handmade stuff. So people trying to say that I'm trying to say I'm a better artist than traditional artists. No, that's a lie. I never said that. What I will say, though, I personally do value great looking AI art better than crappy looking human art, right? Traditional art. Because I value the end result and quality. But I absolutely think there is value and merit in traditional means. I think something is more impressive if it's made through harder kind of or more difficult methods, that as long as it's not inefficient, because we have like modern art where they do say some retarded thing to try and make art and it's garbage out and I put a lot of effort in. No. For instance, like Mike, you draw an incredible image, beautiful image. I think that's great. If someone made that same character out of stone and chiseled the whole thing and spent like months on it, I would value the statue more than your image, even though it's depicting the same thing, because one took so much more effort, right? Sure. And so I think effort actually does play a part in the quality of something, as long as the end result is good quality. Because if that same person spent months on a crappy looking statue, I don't care how much time I put into it, it's a crappy statue. I value Mike's drawing more. And if Mike spent hours drawing, he doesn't because he's a great artist, but if he drew a crappy looking image, I value the AI image that looks better. It's a simple measure of, quality in my mind. And I don't think that's controversial or me trying to say I'm this remarkable artist. I say that
the weird thing is like, I'm all for AI art, especially AI assisted art personally. But like I said, man, I saw like Chuck was doing this book with an AI artist, and it just, when I first looked at it, I was like super stoked because it looked really good. But when I looked closer and I noticed it was AI, I just lost interest.
I think that's just a... Hey, Dev, good to join you joining us, mate. I think that's just a general bias that comes out of a trend that's slowly getting eroded away. AI is becoming more accepted bit by bit, and the studio.
I know, but it's like, it's weird because for me, it's like I like AI art, but I just I'd read it. I just wouldn't want to pay for it.
I think if something came on that, like a story that you really liked, that you really wanted, suddenly if it was made by AI, it wouldn't be a factor at all.
I mean, it was a Chuck Dixon medieval or like Crusades fantasy book. I kind of do want to read it. I just lost interest. I don't know why. It's just a gut reaction for me. I'm not like biased. I guess I'm biased, but I just don't know. I don't know. It was just like a light switch. I was like, oh.
I'm interested to know what book it is. If you message it to me.
Yeah.
So someone has it like, what about AI writing books, Shad? What if AI can write better than you? Well, at the moment it can't. And I enjoy writing anyway. And so there's a lot of monotonous processes in drawing that I actually don't enjoy. I enjoy the creation aspect, depicting my characters in real life and the end result. And for the people who love the process, all power to them. I think that's great. Mike, I think you love the process in drawing. And that's why you still do it and you're very successful at it. I'm more about the creation side of things. I like the end product. That's not so far. I enjoy the process of writing. Like genuinely, the flow state of creativity where it's all coming out. And so for that, I think I'll always write, no matter how good AI gets at it. But if someone makes something like a great book with AI, I think we get another great book in the world. Awesome. That's great.
I've seen like I tried writing ChatGPT and everything and pumping in things like that. By putting in like information and references and all kinds of nonsense like that. It still doesn't really do much. It feels very, very stale and shallow and hollow whenever they come back with a prose piece. There's no humanity there. It's very soulless.
Yeah. And there is such complexity to writing when you want to understand story arcs of characters, plots, also, suspense, subversion, mystery, and other things like that. There are crazy amounts of threads that you need to keep in your mind as you're writing. And like how a character reacts, right, is based on everything that's happened in the story beforehand. Are they going to be consistent? What have they said about that topic previously? And you need to make sure they're consistent on that. And does their experience in the previous plot affect how they're going to react? And all those things AI just struggles with massively. It honestly does a pretty poor job. I don't know, I'll take a look at that.
One thing I think AI would be good for is if you had, like, every character has to have their own voice. That's a Sherlock Holmes line, or that's a Watson line, or that's a House MD line. Well, if you're writing your own characters and they have their own life and feel to them, well, you can, and you have like a big exchange between two characters, your main character and some other character. You can actually put that into maybe ChatGPT, and maybe they might know. They have reference of what the character sounds like and speaks like. They might be able to improve it a little bit, like make them more feel and sound more consistent, but they won't be able to make the character on their own, really. Like make them all they know the backbone, the pieces that they can pick up from other genres and everything, but they can't really put the breath of life into it.
Yeah. Like, to write a good story, you need to understand human emotion and personality, and then there's the world building elements to keep all consistent, everything like that. There's a lot of complex things that AI really struggles with. AI functions on a mathematical formula, and humans can break out of consistent mathematical stuff quite a lot, where we get odd things. And understanding inconsistency in human nature is a lifelong thing that everyone is going to be trying to figure out. But the more you understand that, in my experience, the more I understood human nature, the better writer I became in writing people. But that's really hard for an AI to kind of wrap its head around, because it can understand math and connections really well. That's why it does great AI music, great AI art, because it can see like mathematical, diffusion patterns and other things like that, and associations and stuff. But human nature goes even beyond that. That I think an AI is going to so far really struggles. I'm not saying it might not be able to do it in the future, but at the moment, is very far beyond understanding human nature to an authentic level to write a story that feels real. Especially one that then draws people in. But maybe it'll get better. Maybe it won't. Man, LitDev, you missed out. We've talked about wild stuff already, man. We've talked about...
Sorry about that. My schedule's been off. I've been doing nothing but editing this massive video I have coming on, and it's been like hours just fly by. I have no idea what's going on. It's just... I was like, oh man, I forgot. I forgot to set this alarm. So it's like days have gone into nights, but I've been editing this video and I'm making good progress. It's gonna be 2.5 hours long on The Last Jedi, and diving into the philosophy of it. Not even the narrative structure of it, but the philosophy, why we hate it exactly, like what exactly we hate about it. It's all the stuff that you want to see about modern day movies and things, like going into what the philosophical background, what it means, and what they mean when they wrote these characters the way they did. So I spent a lot of time. I reread novels and things to make sure I got everything right, dude, and stuff. Well, so it's a really intricate video, but it's taken a while.
It might be timely as well, because Star Wars is back in the news cycle briefly. Did you see why Star Wars is back in the news cycle?
Why specifically?
This John Boyega.
Oh yes, I saw that. I'm glad. What ground does he have to speak on anything? He played Finn. Like, shut up.
All right, so this is what he says. John Boyega calls out Star Wars fans for being okay with black actors playing the best friend, but not the lead hero. And this is like, what the hell? Everyone wanted you. They wanted your character to be the hero.
Yeah,
like the major discourse of the last couple of ever since the Last Jedi dropped was, hey, why isn't Finn the Jedi? Why isn't Finn the main character? Why isn't Rey the main character? He's rewriting history. We were getting called misogynists for years, and now we're racist. Okay,
we attacked Disney for shrinking Finn's character on the poster in China. And I've said, and everyone said for like years, that Finn was a better character than Rey and wanted him to be the main character. And he has the friggin' gall to say that, no, Star Wars fans can't hack a black man as main character when they friggin' wanted you as the main character.
What he meant was that Disney put him in the back of the bus.
Yes, Disney
did, not the fans. Disney, but of course, he can't disparage Disney. He has to attack the fans, which seems to be a detriment on every end, on every corner that he wants to speak on. But this, I like, just go back to growing out your hair. That was his last interview. Like, I'm going to grow out my hair because when a black man grows out his hair, is political. Like, since when? Just shut up.
So he says, let me tell you, Star Wars always had the vibe of being the most whitest elite space. Like, what the hell?
Well, also, if that's the case, even if that was the case, so what? Then don't come back. Don't come back to Star Wars then.
Yeah,
we should have to change Star Wars. Star Wars has been an icon of American pop culture for decades. It shouldn't have to change now because some entitled actor was like, well, I don't really. There should be more black people. Like, no, just stay out of the Star Wars then. No one is complaining about you.
He is half true. The Empire was the white elite space.
Yeah, now it was. Yeah, they kind of retconned it. Like, oh yeah, well, it was a white supremacist movement.
Would he say this about Asian cinema? You think? Asian martial art films, they're always the most Asianist elite space. It's like, why are people surprised that when a piece of media that is produced in a predominantly country that has a predominant race, something like that, has the most representation for that background and racial makeup? This is not surprising.
Yeah, I hear he's going to go complain about Bollywood next.
Yeah, right.
By the way, they say the same thing about D&D. Like, it's a predominantly white game. Well, the thing is, with D&D and Star Wars, well, guess who made it? White guys. And they made with their perspective and culture perspective. There's be like going into Uno saying there's too many Mexicans playing Uno. It's like this, like, come on.
I think he's forgetting, that a black guy voiced one of the most important characters in Star Wars.
A Mexican game, or does it just have a Spanish?
It's got a Spanish name, but it's like Spanish name, and then it's like, oh, there's too many Mexicans playing it, no matter how many there are.
And so he goes on to say, it's a franchise that's so white that a black person existing in it was something. Like, what? Wow, he thinks way too much of himself. It's like, no, you weren't that special for being black in a Star Wars film. And guess what? Neither was Lando. Lando was a character. I never thought of like, wow, there's the black character. That's something to see, a black character. No, it was just a character. This guy,
he wasn't the best friend. I mean, he was Han Solo's friend, but then he betrayed him. He took over Cloud City. But he betrayed the Empire back to fight with Han. Like, he had a change of heart. He was a very complex and interesting character, and he was cool.
Yeah, but this guy actually wants to try and racialize it and say, no, it was something weird to see a black guy in Star Wars. It's like, you racist. No one thought that. But he wants to try and inject himself into this thing and try and farm, victim points off of the fact that he's
wasn't
black.
He cool for a minute?
Yeah,
I could have sworn like there's one point in time where he was like, "Oh man, the Disney lied to me. The fans are cool, and it was Disney who lied to me." I could have sworn that was news that came down the pipeline.
Maybe I remember him criticizing Disney at one point, but these comments are just like they've lost the plot.
They put him back in the pod. That's what happened.
Yeah, man. Says you can always tell it's something when some Star Wars fans try to say, well, we had Lando Calrissian and had Samuel L. Jackson. It's like telling me how many cookie chips are in the cookie dough. There's like, no, because guess what? It wasn't even a thing. Like, Lando Calrissian wasn't anything exceptional because it was a black character. He was just a character. Same with Samuel L. Jackson. No one was like, oh, do you see the black guy there? Right? Nothing was like that. And it's like, oh, no, they're trying to say something. It's like, no one cared. And then he goes on. Oh, sorry. Were you wanting to say something, Dev?
Oh, no. That's one thing I did want to mention was that he's trying to downplay all the roles that black men did play in Star Wars. When not only did we mention Lando as being awesome, because he was a very intricate and powerful character in the trilogy. Mace Windu was everyone loved Mace Windu. Mace Windu was awesome. Remember the Tartakovsky Clone Wars, like the 2D Clone Wars. He had there's a whole episode about Mace Windu. He like destroyed an entire army with his bare fists.
Nuts and just starts punching the hell out of these robots.
Like every single character that gave a black guy was prominent and awesome. Like, people loved Mace Windu. People loved Lando Calrissian.
Yes.
Now he's trying to say that, oh yeah, we're just sprinkle them in there. So he's also has to acknowledge the fact that we're a lot of prominent roles, and then he has to downplay them by going, oh, they weren't good enough.
Yeah.
Well, then don't come back to Star Wars then. If that's the way you
piss
feel.
off. What he's saying is ridiculous. He's now, just trying to underplay the role. Lando Calrissian was a pivotal, important role in Star Wars. It's like, they're just scattered in there, bro. They're okay with us playing best friends, but once we touch their heroes, once we lead, once we trailblaze, it's like, oh my God, it's just a bit too much. Bull crap. You're so full of it. Because guess what? You were becoming everyone wanted Finn to be the hero, the main character. What he's saying is complete bullcrap.
He's biting the fans that fed him.
Whenever I see something like this, as out of nowhere, it doesn't make any sense. It kind of feels like they've been entrenched or just drowned in this other this separate bubble of reality, and then all of a sudden they come back to reality and they go to the real world and spout their nonsense, and everyone's like, "What the hell? What are you talking about?" And because this is he's been saturated in this other different alternate reality, and I think what that is Disney execs telling him that, oh man, the fans wouldn't have it. They're blaming us, the execs are blaming us. Really, they don't want it, because then if they made John Boyega a main character or whatever, then they would have a lot of trouble with China.
Maybe they made him say that so they could bring him back, like that's his penance for
they could have moral.
Yeah, because he stepped down off the whatever the Disney train for a minute there and was bashing their decisions, and then now he's back on board.
Well, good. He should stay off the train. We don't want him here anymore.
This comes off as crazy entitled, incredibly so. It's just like, mate, you are completely disconnected to what fans actually thought, and is trying to make them out to be racists. Piss, you disgusting scumbag when you do that. It's like he's trying to say, Star Wars fans he's effectively saying Star Wars fans are racist because they can't hack it if a black man was going to become a more prominent role. Get stuffed. No way that is true. I mean, Litdev, you literally mentioned the full episode in Clone Wars where it's all about Mace Windu. He is the primary character in that episode, the hero. And it's one of people's favorite episodes. It kicked ass. And no one was no one was thinking, oh, that's odd. That is a black man. We can't handle that.
That was the only time I liked Mace Windu.
I mean, the movies is not all that great because he kind of sits around just being subdued Samuel
His
Jackson.
lightsaber skills. It's like wielding a 20-pound baseball bat.
Oh, man.
It really does feel like John Boyega kind of went to a Disney exec and said, I want to be a main character in a Disney film or TV series. And they told him, well, okay, sure, but a main character? Well, I don't think so, because we'd love to, Boyega. Trust us, we'd love to. And the exec could turn to the other yes men there, and they go, yes, absolutely, sir. And then the yes men or the exec would go, but the fans wouldn't have a black man. I'm sorry. The fans are just awful racists, and they wouldn't have that, John Boyega. Anyway, have a good day. What about Rosario Dawson? She played the leading role in what is it called? Ahsoka?
That's right.
Ahsoka? Yeah, she did. Yeah.
I believe
pretty black.
I didn't like Ahsoka, but it was nothing to do with Rosario Dawson. She was very static and stoic and reserved and boring.
She did fold her arms though,
which is not really the character.
Yeah. She was. It didn't feel like Ahsoka, but it was nothing to do with the color of her skin. These comments are completely divorced from reality, and it's actual vilifying the fandom. And it's an attack on the fandom. It's trying to make them out as racist, and I find that disgusting. I can't stand that.
Cheap points, this cheap moral points. Like, the fans are racist against me and other black men, so I should get more roles and more money. I think he's poor. I think he's broke now. He spent all of his money.
Possibly. Some of the super chats actually have some interesting things that probably kick us off into topics of conversation. So let's get to them now, because there's this one from Reptile 0009 says, "Are power levels a good idea when writing a story? If you can be consistent and execute it well, absolutely. But execution is important with power levels."
Depends on the story, really. Like it's that's why there's hard magic systems and soft magic systems.
Mm-hmm. But even with soft magic systems, I think if you're not paying attention, you can make some mistakes, because whatever you show the magic doing, you are educating the audience and establishing rules. If the magic can suddenly do this, as a rule, magic can do this under these circumstances. And then if you're in the same circumstances later, people are going to be wondering, yeah, is he going to use the magic? And if he doesn't, and it could have saved them, they're going to be wondering, why the hell did they do it? You can't avoid rules when using magic systems. By merely showing them, you're establishing rules. And I think the idea that, like, I feel a more accurate definition between soft and hard magic systems, because people sometimes say soft and hard magic systems is magic systems, one has rules and one doesn't. I was like, I think no, because you're going to establish rules no matter what. The difference between soft and hard magic systems is magics that has a very strict limitation and defined, what it can do is very defined and understood. And a soft magic system is that what it can do is kind of undefined. It's more open to possibility. It can kind of do anything. It can be less understood, but it doesn't mean it doesn't have rules. Now, as to power levels itself, it can be done poorly when people forget about it and don't remain consistent with it. Because when you show a character do something, that you're establishing their power level. I'm like, all right, then you need to be consistent with it. And it ticks me off. And Marvel has been horrible at this so much recently, where you see them later on and they should have the power to, overcome or do something, and they're suddenly weaker than they should be. And you're like, what are you doing?
It's a series with like a lot of fighting in it. Power levels would be ideal, because then you'll know like how strong someone might be. I think Toriyama added in power levels, it's over 9,000 thing, because in order to break it, that's why he had it in there in the first place, in order to break it. Like, what the hell is you shouldn't be this powerful. How come you're beating me?
Dragon Ball Z is a very interesting case study for power levels, because at the same time, like it always does both. It's very strict with them. At the same time, it plays fast and loose with them, where they get to a crazy power level and you think they're like, wow, they can destroy planets. And then a bad guy comes in and is just stronger. And it just keeps up and up. And there's no, they just keep getting more powerful. And it shouldn't work, but it does. And I think it works because they just kind of remain consistent with the training and the creep and the progressions. Like, Goku just needs to train and get harder, and there's this epic fight. And one of the things that I think Dragon Ball Z actually does well, even though it's almost does so many of the things that you wouldn't necessarily want to do with power levels in just like infinite growth, is that it stretches it out over a longer period of time. And so the progression of Goku at the start of Dragon Ball Z to when he becomes Super Saiyan is a long period. Okay, it takes him ages to get there, and he has to go through blood, sweat, and tears, and actual death sometimes to achieve it. And it makes it a very satisfying payoff when he eventually goes Super Saiyan. That's one of the flaws I find with Isekai at the moment, where these characters in Isekai are becoming so OP way too quickly. And then they sometimes fail with the power creep, with finding bad guys that can challenge them properly, where they're always just wrecking everyone. And they don't need to go through the struggle again. I think Isekai would be, a lot of Isekai's problems could be rectified, that they get OP. And if they did with the Dragon Ball Z thing, where a bad guy comes in so powerful, where they just wreck them, and it shows that, oh, no, you're still a lightweight. You have to then go through, and it's like they have to start again from the training, but they're still progressing because they kind of have the abilities before. Where a lot of Isekai I've been watching is just they're constantly OP for the set, and then they barely ever challenged, and it becomes boring.
And they start off OP, and then boom, it's like they're kind of OP for the rest of the series.
Yeah. This is why I'm interested to see where solo leveling goes, because I'm loving solo leveling at the moment. But I'm like, I have 3 episodes left for what's available at the moment in season 2, and it's pretty darn OP already. And so I'm interested to see how they're gonna fall into the same mistakes, or are they gonna try fix this up a bit?
Because the solo leveling idea was like, it's kind of gamified workouts.
I love it.
Okay, you need 10 push-ups and 5 of these, or squats or whatever to level up again. Now, that's pretty cool. I like that idea. I wish they had apps like that. Maybe they do. I need to find them.
Solo leveling does some really simple but effective things in the premise that makes it really intriguing. And so if you don't know solo leveling, portals appear throughout the world that take you to a dungeon that has like monsters and then a final boss. And And if you don't go in that portal and defeat that boss, all the monsters in that portal will escape and then invade the real world. And so there's actual stakes. This portal needs to be destroyed or the world is screwed. And there was an incident where this happened and like this entire island got overtaken and it was like a disaster. And so they're very serious about this. But industry is created around it because the treasure you get out of these portals is actually like infinite energy and their infrastructure is built around it and it's very valuable. People have awoken to be hunters that can go into the portals, and it's very important. You need to shut down the portals, otherwise apocalypses can occur. And these are people from the real world, and it's just a fun, simple premise that is really fun. I love it. It's great. I'm enjoying Solo Leveling a lot.
There's one called a Failure Frame, where the main guy is like the weakest at first, and then and the goddess like, oh, I hate weak heroes, and she kind of sends him off to a dungeon to die, and then that's kind of where he figures out like he has the power of paralyze and poison.
I've read the manga of that, and it was fun. Yeah, and through paralyze and poison, he basically kills a crazy OP enemy right off the bat and gets huge XP and comes. And then
it's
like,
enormous XP. It was crazy. But then like he finds this one guy. Was it this guy who's like known as the strongest of men or something? Kills him like, but paralyzed poison. It just takes him a while. Like paralyzed poison, you're done. You're dead.
Yep.
It's like, okay, well, I mean, at that point, it's kind of boring. It's like paralyzed poison.
It gets
Poison.
boring. Yeah, that's all that happens. And then that was like, there are ways that they can mitigate. And Dragon Ball Z, I think, is the example you should follow. It's like the way that you fix it is that they go through this training arc and get this crazy power, but then they come across an enemy or boss that kind of resets and they need to start training again and go through this. Because Dragon Ball Z does that constantly. Frieza, big arc training to get powerful enough to beat Vegeta first. Crazy powerful to get Vegeta, and it was set up by Raditz, who was really powerful, and he was a weakling, so that was a great arc. Then Frieza, and then Cell, right? And it was just and it resets the arc where you have to train to get better, and they achieve something new. And what's amazing is that it seems like even though it's essentially this exact same, story arc, people enjoy it because sometimes new characters introduced, they're discovering new powers, and there's just a slight difference to the arc, and it's a formula that people enjoy. That's simply rinsing and repeating the formula over and over again. Dragon Ball Z has been on for years, and people still love it. And it's like, there we go.
People really, really love it. And I heard a story that the guy who starred in Dragon Ball Evolution was captured by the Mexican cartels, and then when they learned that he was starring in Dragon Ball Evolution, they let him go because the cartels love the Dragon Ball. Like they love Dragon Ball in Mexico.
I love it.
Like every single time a new episode would launch, all battles and wars between the cartels would stop, so they can watch it.
Oh man. But yeah, so Isekai, they can learn a thing or two from Dragon Ball because there's a problem with Isekai. Even though it's a fun premise and I enjoy a lot of it, it gets boring. But thank you for the super chat. I thought that one would kick off a conversation. Alexander Cross for $5 says, when it comes to Hollywood, I've gotten around to the idea of guilty of woke until proven innocent. They don't get the benefit of the doubt. I think that's fair. Usually. I think that is...
We had 10 years already of this crap. It's like, pretty much after a decade, it's like, it's probably gonna be woke until proven otherwise.
Yeah. Yep. Wale Yamuna for $20 says, people that argue with you on Twitter about AI art who think you just press a button and it generates an entire art and yet have never done it themselves to understand how much work is needed to use the tool properly. Yeah. And there's a difference because there are people that just do that. Click a button, spit it out. But the best AI art that takes time, effort to produce and make. And there's actually I see a bridge of difference between the best AI art and just the kind of, and I think you could call some of it, even a lot slop that's just spat out. So a lot of it's still enjoyable slop, mind you. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But to call it all slop, I think is completely biased and ignorant of what's actually, because the best AI art is friggin' amazing.
Yeah, and it depends on what you're doing. I mean, I'm not going to spend, 4 hours making a thumbnail.
That's also true. I enjoy the process of creation. I can end up doing things that I find monotonous if the end result is satisfying. Mm-hmm. And so the image that I shared where I have the time lapse took me about 8 hours to make. It takes time. But as a result, the end result is very like the fingers are perfect. It's all consistent, has the design I want. The details are great. The resolution is way high. And that piece is just all around much superior to the general AI stuff that, people spit out. And that's what I'm trying to kind of debunk and shows like, no, like good AI art takes time and effort, as you know, sir. And I appreciate you for the super chat. Buddy Rabbit, $5 says, look, if you want a better Minecraft cinematic experience, just watch the Captain Sparkles music video series from years back. I have no idea what that is.
No, me either.
But I'm not surprised that Buddy Rabbit knows, because he knows many a deep lore. Good old Buddy Rabbit. And I might look it up. The problem is, I'm not huge into Minecraft. I mean,
I never got it. My kids love it. I just never got it.
I reckon I would love the gameplay. I reckon that so much of the crafting I would love. The graphics are actually a barrier to me. I don't like the blocky.
That's how I felt.
I don't like the blocky graphics. That's why I got into Conan Exiles. Fun graphics, people with swords, and then you could, mine materials and build a base and everything. I freaking love it. So the gameplay, Minecraft could be possibly my favorite game if it just had a graphics update.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's got graphics packs or whatever you can get, so you can get higher end graphics. But that was the thing with me. It's like my Elijah, my oldest, was into Minecraft like when it very first came out, and just playing all that. I'm like, what are you doing? I'm like, we just spent 40 years getting graphics that are awesome, and you're playing with blocks. What are you doing?
It's way better.
It's worked. It's made Minecraft timeless.
How about did you know the people who made Conan Exiles? They're making Dune, they're making a Dune game.
Yeah, I'm not as into the setting though. I like fantasy and swords, and it suits a survival setting so much better. The one that's caught my eye, there's one that was just announced on Twitter like today, and RuneScape. It's like this RuneScape survival base building game thing. I was like, oh, all right. You have my interest.
RuneScape is old school. That was like the first one.
I hope I'm not getting it mixed up. Maybe let me go to my.
Well, RuneScape was like the first MMO, I think, that kind of like really made it big. So if they have a RuneScape like survival, that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, it was just announced. Did I bookmark one of the things just because I was like, oh, you have my interest? But I'm not seeing. Oh, yes, I did. Yeah, it is RuneScape. There we go. This has my interest. Check it out. It's I'm not sharing this out, so don't worry. But it's based in RuneScape, and it's a survival. It looks like a bit like Conan, where dungeons, but it has base building and crafting and resource gathering. There, look. So base building here. I'm like, oh, hey, you have my interest.
Base building is good. It's always a lot of fun.
Yeah, I love RuneScape, Dragon Wilds. I was like, all right.
Shad, you ever play Age of Empires?
Paying attention. Sorry, what?
You ever play Age of Empires?
Oh, friggin' yeah, loved Age of Empires.
Age of Empires is great. Yeah, I have Age of Empires 1, 2, and then Age of Empires 3 didn't like very much, and then Age of Mythology was really awesome.
Oh, Age of Empires 2 is the best.
Age of Empires 2 Deluxe Edition has better graphics. It still has freaking active servers.
It's like Super HD now, I think.
Yeah. Castles, man. Castles.
It's fun.
I love it. The people like guys with swords can destroy a castle.
Yeah, it's like with the knight. You just hear a little knight going ching, 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 ching. And all of a sudden your castle
there for 3 hours until it takes down your freaking.
You don't catch it in time. One night will take it down. But I think one of the strategies was like to build a bunch of castles all together. That way, anyone who comes by gets annihilated with arrows.
Yeah. Like, I just love trying to make an impregnable base, and I always got destroyed because of those damn trebuchets.
Dude, if you ever want to play, get Definitive Edition, and we'll play.
I think I got it.
I'd be down, dude.
I would be down. It's just time and games. It's just fun. I love
games. Only take 4 hours.
Yeah, only 4 hours. There we go. Buddy Rabbit for $2 says Tate and Grummz is apples to oranges. I 100% agree. Yeah, they have different extremities in what they've done. Because
like Grummz' porn studio.
Yeah, we talked all about that. You missed out, man. We talked all about it all.
You can't mention the whole like Tim Pool porn game where he was like trying to sue for what was it called? Subverse.
Yeah,
that was is like, wow, Tim Pool's porn game. And also, why is your commedia company called Subverse, Tim Pool? That's kind of an interesting title.
So he never had any association with the porn game, but he had a website named Subverse that was the same name as a porn game.
But
and he
why
tried
Subverse?
I don't know, but he
Is he
tried to get them
like
to change the name because he thought the association was tarnishing his brand. And I don't think he won out on it. It was a failed...
I don't think so. That was dumb.
Yeah.
Like what part of you associates with the word Subverse, Tim Pool? Like just nothing.
I do not know.
It was pretty funny.
New Doc Prime for £5 or euros. Check out Phantom Mask. It uses AI in a positive way. Oh, that has my interest.
Phantom Mask, you say?
Artist of Persona series has made a game using a lore to create monsters based on his art. I love stuff like that. AI is becoming more and more innovative, and people are including it into their workflows in new and interesting ways. Like, we showed the video clip back, it was last week or the week before, about the people who made the House of David TV show. Some of the big visual effects, they used AI for it, and it looks friggin' amazing. And guess what? It didn't replace people's jobs. It wasn't just AI alone. It was included in the workflow. It's exactly the thing I've been saying for years. Ah, my gosh. So look, it's satisfying to be proven right in all of this, I have to say. Book of Grudges 499 says, as a Christian, if I couldn't associate, we got your super chat. A legend. If I couldn't associate with anyone who did something I disagreed with, I could never associate with anyone, including myself. Well said, man. Buddy Rabbit for $10 says, widening the tent to accept gradations and fringes more and more eventually results in the destruction of the tent so long as the borders keep getting pushed. Guess I'm a prude. I'll stand with Paul. No, you have a point there. You actually have a point. This is what I mean, where I was trying to talk about, like, we do have our line. Like, Andrew Tate clearly hits, that line for me where we need to stand our ground and say, no, we cannot accept a constant expansion on accepting every type of divergent or degenerate kind of thing as normal. No, we can't. We need to hold our ground of what is wholesome and what is good. And I'm not excusing pornography. I think pornography is bad. Okay. I'm not moving on that ground. I have somewhat more liberal, definitions of what is pornography, and I wouldn't try and get it banned. Not because I think it's not bad. I think it is bad. I think just the ban would make it worse. And look, Mike has a different take on that, and is perfectly entitled.
And the porn.
And guess what? That's us holding the line. We have our lines, and so I think you're touching on an important truth there. That I think what's the saying? Like, yesterday, what we tolerate today will become what is normal tomorrow.
Yeah.
There's truth to that.
I've lived through that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I've seen it. I what would be beyond the pale when I was a kid in the 90s is now considered, if you do not accept it, you're a friggin' bigot. It's crazy. It's crazy what's going on. Joshua Hilton Bright, Squirtle Squirts for $10 says, if this is what funded him to be eventually scouted by Blizzard, it means the issue is 25 to 30 years ago. Who, that doesn't already hate Mark, changed their opinions of Mark learning this information? I don't think many. I think this is mostly, a nothing burger made by people who are hypocrites that actually don't have an issue with any of this. They actually promote far more degenerate stuff. And look, we've explained it. It's not excusing the porn sites or anything like that, but it doesn't mean I'm not going to, associate and be friends with people who I have different standards to me. But there is a line. Absolutely. I think what would have really made people just cut tight, if it was anything related to children in any means, that would have been, that's too far, and there'll be much greater backlash against Grummz.
I don't know much about this porn studio or whatever, but I heard it was he said it was softcore too. It wasn't...
Yeah. And it was a lot of it was hentai and hentai stories, and then it later moved on to some models and stuff. And all of that is bad. There is a scale. There is vastly much worse, of course. It's not to excuse it, But
I think that's a little bit different than like I think legit like probable human trafficking that Andrew Tate was doing. It's a big difference. I think.
Massive difference. Holy crap!
A little bit.
A little bit.
Nathan Cassidy for 1999. I like how the left think that people of the church, which has an issue with porn addiction due to sexless marriage, and one of the biggest customers of OnlyFans, we're going to have a problem with Grummz running a site like that. Lol. Like, I'm trying to understand. Like, I like how the left think that people of the church, which have an issue with porn addictions, which yes, we do, and sexless marriages, and one of the biggest and we have, problem with people we're going to have a problem with Grummz running a site, because I think some people have I have a problem with it, but not to say that like this is an unforgivable thing where we can't associate with him or acknowledge the good work that he does. Like, I still think Grummz is a decent person at their core, and holds mostly similar values in what is good. And he says that he doesn't. He says that he thinks pornography nowadays has gone too far and he doesn't support it. He thinks it's harm to society. That's a changed opinion to what he has had in the past. Sorry if I misunderstood you, Nathan. That's on me. Jude at $5 says, AI is the suite. You need to dress up and act appropriately. You still need to dress up and act appropriately. Yeah. You need to do work. You need to do work to get the best stuff. There's limitations in AI, absolutely.
Suit.
Sorry. AI is the suit. Oh, sorry. I mispronounced it. I'm a retard. AI is the suit. You still need to dress up and act appropriately. Yes, well said. Taken 610 for $5 says, why were Anakin and Palpatine chuckling after Palpatine had defeated Mace Windu? Anakin has said, while pointing outside, Master Mace Windu. Master Mace Windu.
Mace Windu flew out the window.
Mace Windu flew out the window. Thank you.
It was foreshadowing. George is a genius.
Wolfspade $5 says, hey guys, did you hear that Greta Gerwig wants Meryl Streep to, we literally talked about how the stream voice, Aslan in the Narnia movie, the male lion, Jesus allegory, get Liam back. Yeah.
That was infuriating. It's like all these things were corrupted before, but of course they have to go with the Christian, one of the most Christian stories that it was ever written, and then have to, we're going to make it feminist and woke and crap. It's kind of because they always gut any story of any religious symbolism or meaning. Like they did with the Wrinkle in Time. Like that was very religious, but the movie kind of cut all that out, and it's not the same. Like it's unfortunately for them. I know as much as they would love it, like, oh, if we just cut out our religion, everything would be better. No, a lot of morality, a lot of truth, a lot of lessons are woven into religion, and so when stories are built on these religious perspectives and these viewpoints, you can't remove the religion from these stories.
Oh yeah.
I don't think it's a coincidence that a lot of stories built on the backs of religious philosophy have been great stories. Well, specifically Christian philosophy.
Yeah, I actually think
Matt Murdock prayed on the last episode of Daredevil.
Hey, he did. I actually think you can't separate religion from humanity. I think humans, it's a natural expression of what humanity is. And if you take away organized religion, secular state religion just takes its place, which is vastly, vastly worse. And I'm not saying...
I would have to agree that people want to... The modern day person wants to... they want to tell us that we need to eat, we need to, maybe some social interaction, and then that's it, something like that. But what we really need is spiritual nourishment. There's big, giant spiritual nourishment that people need.
What people naturally imprint to is a divine director or endpoint to direct their lives. And if it's not going to be God, it's going to be the state, ideology, celebrities, exactly. And that's why it's so, dangerous to try, because people say, oh, get rid of organized religion, and then it's just replaced with the worst religion. And I'm not saying all religions are good. Christianity is I think is the one true religion. And even if you're an atheist, I don't think you can argue that it's the most beneficial, best religion for society by far. What is a magnitude above all other religions, because of such important principles of the teachings of Jesus Christ. that's the foundations of like some of the most civilized and greatest societies. Like the foundation of common law, okay, is based on religious law. Okay,
for those who don't speak Australian, he said common law.
Common law. No, seriously, and it's the foundation of common law that gives us like freedom and democracy, and that's what it's led to, and all that stuff. And they're like, it's so important to civilized societies.
But one other thing that was important is that Joseph Campbell was the guy that made the monomyth, which later became the hero. He was religious. And he kind of created the monomyth with that religious perspective in mind. But also he looked at all the cultures in the world, and every single culture kind of stemmed their stories and their viewpoints from the religion that needs some sort of spiritual nourishment. To the point where in his book, he kind of noted that if you do not have a spiritual guide, and if you do not have if you never undergo a rite of passage, then he kind of notes that young men, well, they might even become lawyers or very successful in society in terms of status. Their minds will not. Their minds will not mature. So they go back and they cling to the images of infancy they worship at I think they called the boyhood shrines. They'll just worship at the boyhood shrines forever and kind of play act as adults. And women, if they do not go through rites of passage, will worship the incubus. So that's why they become enamored with celebrity and handsome men on the magazines. Also, I want to point out that since you mentioned modern art, have you seen modern art? It's kind of weird if you hear it from Joseph Campbell, how they cling to these images of infancy when they're an undeveloped, non-developed person who has not gone through a rite of passage. And you look at these modern art things, and what are they? I'm drawing on the wall like a toddler.
Or screaming and making these weird emotional outbursts.
Like a tantrum.
Oh my gosh.
They're all childish. They're all childish, and they all think they're enlightened, but they're not. They're the opposite. They never grew up.
Yes.
By the way, Shad, guess what's going to be covered in my video?
What? AI?
All of this.
All of it?
Not AI, but like the modern art.
Modern art.
The images of infancy, and how it's like if everyone thinks they're so enlightened, and comparing it to people who have worked on the craft. Because I also go back to Bret Easton Ellis's book and his viewpoints in the book White, where like the democratization of culture has kind of destroyed the idea of craft and all kinds of stuff. So we'll see how that goes.
Oh, dude, awesome. I just highlighted some comments, like what someone pointed out, that wokeism is a cult, not a religion. I agree. Thank you for the correction. So
I think wokeism has taken the place of religion in some people's hearts. This is why there's so much fervor around it.
Yes, yeah, like it is a cult, but it is also kind of a religion to many people. Alexander Cross for $2 says Tim Pool's subverse equals subversive against the paradigm. Okay, so that's the meaning behind
mystery song.
Thanks, Alexander. Buddy Rabbit for $2 says, yes, I know things. It's what I do. It bugs Mike. We love you, Buddy Rabbit. Feast a Cat for $4.99 says, Shad, have you played Kingdom Come Deliverance 2? I love to hear your take on the combat and siege sometime. I have a live stream on Shadiversity where I tried it out. I found it mostly boring, unfortunately. I love the setting. I love the setting. And I think it's the type of game that I could enjoy on my own, where I'm just unwinding, zoning out. But I didn't enjoy it as a live stream experience. But maybe I'll go back to it.
You can conduct sieges in that game?
I think you can do a lot in that game, and it's too much in my mind. Like when I got to brewing the potion, and you literally have to manually put in not only every ingredient, you have to put every ingredient into the right holder and then pour it into the pot in the right way. And I was just like, oh,
that's a lot.
Come on.
I think that's kind of why it might have been boring, because it's too much stuff. You know, sometimes you get too much stuff, you're kind of paralyzed.
I can do this boring stuff in the real world. I don't need a video game to do that. I'm sorry. And look, I'm not saying that there's not other fun parts in it, but it went too deep in a lot of areas that just kind of made me.
Oh, Shad, I know what I can do to make it up for my tardiness. I can show you the beginning of my new video.
Okay.
After Super Chats.
Let's do the Super Chats, and I can't wait. We'll check it out. Buddy Rabbit says, I'm waiting for Prophet Muhammad Super Psych. Yeah. They'll never do that. They're cowards, won't they? Yeah, race change Muhammad in a stage play. See how that turns out.
It would be funny to see them try though. Before you see the try.
Nathan Cassidy clarifying. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. 499 says, I found it funny that the left thought they had a gotcha with Grummz with all this. Sorry if I made it confusing due to character limit, and it's also on me. But yeah, thank you, dude. And they really did think, Grummz is going to be taken down and going to expose it. And Grummz is just like, no, here's all the information and here's even more. And my wife, she's aware of it. She actually was part of the business back in the day, and is not actually ashamed of it. And and he has different views on pornography now as well. But all right, we are up today on the super chats. Lit Dev, yes. Let us see this work of art that you are producing.
We're just working on. I'm gonna see system audio. I think that should do it. You see the whole studio with this one.
Okay.
Here we go. Here's the beginning.
The story of Narcissus is one of an arrogant young man cursed for his hubris to fall in love with his own image until he withered away. A life spent too long gazing in a mirror that it was devoid of personal growth and wisdom. Now,
I wonder what that's like.
Get in, nerds. Let's ruin some art.
I love it.
And there's the opening.
Nice, man. It's funny because there was another chat. The other thing people worship now instead of religion is themselves, and that's very much like Narcissus is like, the
ego, and that's a big part of this new video is going into the fact that these modern art bros and TLJ, it's all about ego and serving themselves, and also tearing down men. That's a big part of this new video is that how it tears down men. And I know that's hyperbolic to say. I know it's like very triggering to say, oh, men, really? It is, like specifically. So I do comparisons and go into like how it's tearing, and not just men, like, they hate men. It's the idea behind what makes a man. The Last Jedi is so divisive, and I kind of go over in this video in detail, is because Star Wars is a masculine journey. No matter how triggering that might be, it's true. It's a masculine journey. I also go over what a feminine story might look like. But Star Wars is a masculine journey it was for men, so that's why it appealed to so many young men. And so when TLJ came out, it really attacked everything that made Star Wars Star Wars. It wasn't just like subversive. It didn't give us what we wanted. It attacked and tore down the very things we loved about Star Wars and what people and the very heart of masculinity itself, like the very ideas behind it. Basically chastising men, chastising the idea of men, chastising traditional heroism and tearing it down. And that's kind of why on a psychological level kind of tore things down specifically.
Man, I actually love going to the psychology. And this comment here is interesting because like men, one of the core parts of masculinity, like true, virtuous masculinity, is self-sacrifice, sacrificing yourself to protect others, right?
Big time.
Absolutely, big time. And like, have you seen those like memes on Twitter where it's like what men really want, and it's like this guy sitting on a hill, ready to face the horde of enemies to protect his family as they run to freedom, and it's like there's this dream of a man sacrificing his life to protect those he cares about. That's the ultimate masculine sacrifice. Guess what? One of the main archetypes that sets that is Jesus Christ, who sacrificed himself to save everyone.
Forgive us our sins.
Why is Christianity one of the most positive religions in the world? Like that's core. It has these virtuous ideals that are just essential to it. That is looking awesome, man. Can't wait. And Mike, anything that you want to plug before we sign off?
I'm just drawing.
I like your background.
Oh, can you see it when I do that? Hold on. Let me virtual background. None. All right. I'm drawing Spider-Man.
I haven't seen you draw Spider-Man before. That's
I draw him a lot, but I just been having fun with my markers lately.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm gonna do Spider-Man.
Man, you should do Spider-Man more often because that looks wicked. I love Spider-Man's, like posing and stuff.
I've got a Spider-Man on eBay right now, but I might put this one on there too. I don't know.
Awesome. Sweet.
Well, don't know.
Yeah.
And
thank you, Andy, for we had a great stream. This was heaps of fun. We appreciate it all. Thank you everyone for joining us on the Culture Crusade. And we will see you next time. So as always, stay on watch.